And more on our top story, the government defending its £1.4 billion programme to help children across England catch up on lost learning caused by the pandemic. Let's speak to the Shadow Education Secretary, Kate Green. Good morning to you. I mean, the Education Secretary tells us this is the beginning of a true revolution.
It's a very slow revolution. It's a revolution that falls woefully inadequate of what the government's own education expert, Sir Kevan Collins, is suggesting is needed. And I'm afraid it badly lets down our children and young people. It's going to bring in some extra tutoring. It's going to bring in some training for teachers. But we know that parents say that the most worrying concern that they have following the pandemic is their children's emotional well-being, their ability to socialise with other children and their mental well-being. So it's a very limited announcement, I'm afraid, that the government is making, and children and young people can't really afford to wait for this government to get a sensible package that will properly address children's educational recovery and their well-being.
Yes, but in terms of educational recovery, which presumably is most people's priority here, shouldn't that be the focus rather than looking at the emotional state of children? I mean, I know not all, but a lot of them do just bounce back when things get back to normal.
So it's very clear that good learning depends on good emotional and mental well-being. If you're worried, if you're frightened, if you're withdrawn, if you're not engaging with teachers and other students, then that is going to inhibit your good learning. And that's why we say learning and well-being go hand in hand. And in fact, parents say and teachers say that it is their top priority to address children's mental well-being as a prerequisite, really, for good quality learning and for children's happiness and their development. We also know, very worryingly, that Kevan Collins himself has identified a rise in mental health problems among children and young people. So this can't be an either-or. Of course, we've got to help children recover lost learning, and it is worrying that the gap in attainment between better off children and more disadvantaged children is widening, and that has to be addressed. But good quality mental health services and social activities, the chance to play and development, are going to be equally important and just not provided for in the government's proposals.
Yeah, but £1.4 billion announced today, £1.7 billion announced at the end of last year. I mean, £3.1 billion in total. It's a lot of money.
It's well short of what Kevan Collins himself has said is needed. And of course, the investment we make in children and young people today, clearly crucially important for them, but it's also really important for our country's future success and prosperity. So we've seen economic think tanks like the Institute for Fiscal Studies suggesting that a failure to enable children to catch up on lost learning and recover from the pandemic will cost hundreds of billions of pounds to our country down the line. So not making this investment up front in children and young people now, not only is that morally wrong, we really do have to prioritise our young people. It's also a false economy, and I'm afraid it's the wrong choice not to be prioritising children's learning and well-being.
I mean, the Education Secretary said this morning that they are prioritising children. They're looking at using this money to increase one-on-one tuition to catch up on lost learning to cover 6 million students.
Their announcement today will actually amount to an hour a fortnight of tutoring for each pupil, so I'm not sure it's as bold and ambitious as the Education Secretary might like to suggest. But as I've been saying, simply doing one element of what needs to be a package of support and activity for children and young people won't on its own be sufficient. Yes, one-to-one tutoring and small group tutoring is helpful. It's good. It can really help children to make up lost learning. But that will be inhibited. We'll be doing it with one hand behind our back if we don't ensure that children's well-being, their social development is attended to, and indeed if we don't ensure that they've got enough to eat and are living in adequate material circumstances. So we're very concerned that yet again we will come to this summer holiday and children on free school meals will receive free meals only for half the summer holiday. Well, children don't go on half rations just because they're not in school. And hungry children, or children who come back after the summer not having eaten healthily, are not going to be able to learn well and develop well. It's not enough just to say we're doing the tutoring. The government has to put in place a whole package of support for children and young people, especially the most disadvantaged, and its proposals today fall woefully short of that.
The Education Secretary does say, though, that this is part of a process. He acknowledged that more needs to be done. He also said, that they were actively looking at the idea of changing the school day, so there was perhaps more time for learning. Would the Labour Party support a longer school day?
What we've been saying is that we could use time now at the end of the school day and indeed at the breakfast clubs to offer a wider range of extracurricular activities, sports, music, drama, art. Schools have fabulous facilities, and it's a shame for those not to be being used after 3:30 or in the holidays. I think if you ask parents or teachers, they will say, children get tired. The idea that you can extend the school day for lots of additional teaching of academic subjects, you get a really diminishing return. Children won't learn well if they're tired and if it's been a long school day. But I do absolutely want to see schools being supported with the resources to extend their facilities beyond the end of the day for perhaps local sports clubs, youth groups to come in and use those facilities so that we can offer those broader activities for children and young people that are so crucial for their social and emotional development and indeed for their learning.
OK, Kate Green, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.